wrapping up on section 712 on graphing those sine functions. So today we just have a couple examples to go over on kind of looking at, we kind of have this little messy little circle that we kind of came up with some values on there. So we're going to, yeah, so I kind of gave you a better one. Look at that. So, right, so we're going to look at some angles and see if we can kind of figure out some stuff. So I'm going to have you use your calculator to figure out the very first function, what the value of sine of 120 is. And then from there, we're going to put our calculators away. All right. So either we can remember from yesterday, we can even look back in our notes onto our crazy little circle. But we're going to figure out, since we're looking at sine functions, sine is looking at x's or y's. Yep, if we're looking for sine, we're looking for those y values, right? So anybody remember what the sine of 120 degrees equals? Or we can get into our fancy dancy handy dandy little calculator, making sure we're in degree mode because we're talking about degrees, and we can put in the sine of 120 and we end up getting 0. Because we're in a unit circle, so the radius is 1. Yep, good job. So it's got to be less than 1 or less than 1. I'm letting you know that it's less than 1.
It's 0.58. Is that wrong?
0.87?
Yep, just kidding.
Right.
That's wrong.
Did you just guess, or did you put it in your calculator?
No, I put it in the calculator, but it wasn't decimals. Don't trust any calculator.
Well, no, well, hold on. I'm going to show you real quick, because and I'm assuming you're in radians.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm just on this one.
Oh, no, you should try it again.
Don't trust Google calculator. It's
Oh,
not
just
it.
do sine 120, don't do sine. No wonder. I just
Don't trust one of the biggest tech companies in the world.
No, I
That's
don't think so.
Well, where's your calculator go?
I don't know, man. I'm confused. See, it says calculator.
Maybe I'm doing it like.
No, you're probably doing it right. Like, even
Right.
I don't use my phone calculator or anything when I'm doing this. I always make sure to use decimals. because that's
Yeah,
the only
use
time I
decimals.
I'm a big girl now.
Yep, you're a big girl now. All right. So we know that the sine of 120 degrees is 0.87. All right, so we're actually looking for, on that unit circle, right, that 120 degrees, that point right there, we were looking for that y value. So we're saying that that y value is a positive 0.87, right? So now we're not going to use a calculator, and we're going to see if we can figure out what the sine of 480, ooh, that's really bad writing. The sine of 480 degrees equals. So when it comes to our 0 to 360 degrees, we kind of use those as like some reference angles. Sometimes depending on what problem you're doing, you're either like everything in that first quadrant you could kind of think of as a reference angle, or that 0 to 360 we're going to use as a reference angle, because is that 480 degrees, like do we see 480 degrees written up there? No. So I bet you that 480 degrees is like one of these angles up here. We just have to find out where it's at, right? Because how do you get to 480 degrees? What do you think you need to do?
Go around the circle once and then you keep going.
Yeah, you got to go all the way around the circle once, because that's 360 degrees, and then we're going to keep going, and we got to keep going to somewhere, right? 120? How'd you get 120?
minus 360.
Yeah, yep, because we knew that going all the way around the circle was 360 degrees, right? Whoops. So we want to know what we have. So, I'm having a day. So we were at 480, and if we subtract that 360, we have 120 degrees left, right? So do we know what the sine of 120 degrees is? Do we know what the sine of 120 degrees is? Yeah. So what's the sine of 480 degrees going to be?
0.87.
Yeah, 0.87. Good job. What if I asked you guys the sine of negative 240 degrees? How'd you get that?
I looked at my circle.
You looked at your circle. So when it comes to our negative degrees, if we start at 0, and if we go counterclockwise, if we go this way, we're going positive, right? To all of these little guys. If we want to go negative, we actually go down, right? So if I go from 0 going this way, what do you think that would be? Negative 90 degrees, right? If I start at 0 and I go this way, this would be negative 180, right? If I went all the way around to here, that would be now negative 270. And if I went from here going all the way around this way, that would be negative 360, right? So we need to figure out negative 240. So we know from here is 180. And we got to get to 240. So we got to go 60 more. So we would end up back at 120. Yep. And what's our y value at 120? 0.87, right? So don't make the mistake of looking at this 240 degrees down here. So, because at this one I would have a negative y value, and then be like, oh, because it's negative, it's got to be the negative, right? You have to be able to find the angle. This would have been negative 120, right? But that's not negative 240. All right, now we're going to spice it up a little bit for you guys. You guys try this one. What about the sine of 540 degrees? Try whistling. Try whistling with your mask on.
I can't whistle anymore.
I don't know how to listen.
Yeah.
Would you divide, subtract
Not very hard.
360 from that?
Yep, yep,
So it'd be like 180.
yep. So you would have had 540. Yep, you subtracted 360 and you got 180, right? So now we need to find out what's our sine value or our y value at 180 degrees. Are we looking at x's or y's? Y's. So what would our y value be? 0. Yep. Good job. All right. One last one, just for Miss Huey.
Yeah.
What is the sine of negative 90 going to equal? Ahem. Huh?
-1.
How'd you get negative 1?
Well, I didn't do what you guys are doing because I didn't count it out. But I just typed it.
Because I said not to use a calculator, remember? If you listen and yep.
You want me to hit the negative 90?
How do we get to negative 90?
You go backwards.
Go backwards? Where am I going to go to? Right here?
No,
I'm going to go to here?
no, like you have to go backwards.
Which way is backwards? This way?
Counterclock, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where am I going to... So, oh, I have to go all the way around to here?
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to start here. And so this would be like 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Yep. So because if I were to draw that angle, right? Is that 90 degrees from there to there?
No.
Yeah, so that's our negative 90 degrees. And then we want to find our y value. So what is our y value right there in a unit circle?
-1.
-1. Yep, there you go. All right, so are we good with how to count positive and how to find negative angles going around? Or angles that like to go all the way around as many times? And it can even be more, like it could be finding 1,000 degrees. So you would start off with 1,000, you would subtract 360, right? Subtract another 360. Keep subtracting those 360s out of there until you're between that 0 and 360. And then you'll find that reference angle.